house like any other. Pontefract, a small town in West Yorkshire, had always been quiet. It was the kind of place where neighbours knew each other, children played in the streets, and people felt safe leaving their doors unlocked. At 30 East Drive, the Pritchard family, Joe, Jean, their son Philip, 15 years old, and daughter Diane, 12 years old, believed they had found a comfortable home. It was modest, practical, and unremarkable. But beneath the house's foundation, a terrible secret was buried. Something ancient, something hungry, had been waiting for them. And soon, that secret would awaken. It started innocently enough. One hot August afternoon in 1966, Jean and Joe left town for a short trip. Their teenage son Philip stayed behind with his grandmother Sarah. The house was silent, the only sound the occasional ticking of the clock. Then, suddenly, a chill filled the air. Philip shivered. The temperature had dropped unnaturally, despite the summer heat outside. Then a gust of cold wind rushed through the living room, but all the windows were shut. Sarah frowned. Something wasn't right. Then it happened. A fine white powder began falling from the ceiling, like snow covering the furniture. Sarah reached out, touching it, but it vanished instantly. Then, a loud crash from the kitchen. Philip and Sarah froze. They could hear objects moving on their own, the sound of something shifting across the tiled floor. Philip gathered his courage and stepped forward. The moment he entered the kitchen, he saw it. The teapot had shattered on the ground. Its lid rolled eerily across the floor on its own, coming to a dead stop at Sarah's feet. Then, water began pooling on the floor, appearing from nowhere. It seeped out from beneath the solid concrete, spreading toward them like a creeping tide. Sarah grabbed Philip's hand and yanked him out the door. They waited outside, refusing to step back in until Joe and Jean returned home. That night, they slept with the lights on. At first, the family dismissed it all as odd, but harmless. But things got worse. Objects disappeared and reappeared in different rooms. Cabinets opened and slammed shut in the middle of the night. The house was often filled with a suffocating, rotten stench that came and went without explanation. Footsteps echoed upstairs, even when no one was home. Philip became obsessed with proving something was wrong. He would set objects in specific places, only to return and find them moved. Then, one night, something attacked. Diane, only 12 years old, was in the hallway one evening when the air grew thick and heavy. She turned, feeling something watching her. Then, an invisible force grabbed her wrist. She screamed, trying to yank her arm free, but it was too strong. Before she could react, something shoved her hard. She tumbled down the stairs, crashing at the bottom with a painful thud. Jean and Joe rushed to her side, but when they pulled up her sleeve, their blood ran cold. 4 long red scratches ran down her arm. Philip, standing nearby, whispered, "I saw it." The family turned to look at him. His face was pale. His voice was barely a breath. "I saw a shadow at the top of the stairs." The entity grew bolder. One night, Philip woke to an unnatural chill in his bedroom. The air felt heavy, suffocating, and then he saw it. At the foot of his bed stood a figure. It was tall, looming, dressed in a black robe, its head hooded and faceless. Philip tried to scream, but his voice was gone. Then it took one step forward. The moment it moved, the light bulb exploded, plunging the room into darkness. Philip screamed. John and Joe rushed in, only to find their son huddled in the corner, trembling. "The monk," he gasped. "He's real." Now the whole family saw it. Every night, the Black Monk appeared, watching from the hallway, standing at the foot of beds, whispering from the darkness. But then, it started attacking. One evening, Diane was alone in her room when she suddenly felt fingers around her throat. She gasped, but there was nothing there. An invisible force lifted her off the ground, choking her. She kicked and thrashed, struggling to breathe. Joe and Jean heard her strangled screams and burst into the room. They froze in horror. Diane was suspended in the air, her feet dangling above the floor. Then she was thrown across the room. She hit the wall hard, sliding down in a heap. Joe rushed to grab her. Diane gasped, pointing with a trembling hand. He was right there, she sobbed, watching. Desperate for answers, the Pritchards contacted a paranormal investigator. What they learned shocked them. The house had been built on the site of a medieval Cluniac monastery, and centuries ago, a monk had been executed there. Legend said he had kidnapped and murdered a young girl, and as punishment, he was hanged for his crimes, his body left to rot near where the Pritchards' home now stood. His spirit had never left, and now he had Diane in his sights. The family flees, but the haunting never ends. After 3 years of terror, the Pritchards could take no more. They abandoned the house, leaving everything behind. But the Black Monk never left. Even after they were gone, 30 East Drive was never truly empty. Decades later, visitors and new owners reported chilling experiences. A shadow figure lurking on the stairs, unexplained whispers in the darkness, the sound of heavy booted footsteps pacing the halls, sudden violent cold spots, especially in Diane's old bedroom, even in summer objects moving on their own, just as they did when the Pritchards lived there. To this day, those who step inside say they feel it, a presence, a darkness watching, waiting, as if the Black Monk is still there. Hungry for another family, would you dare spend the night?
So we're heading into the kitchen now.